In the situation, China should demonstrate China's commitment to fundamental principles and rights at work so that it can become a unifier and stabilizer of the global supply chain with the full respect of universal principles.
So I think South Korea's story is remarkable, and I think in many ways you epitomize that from the rags to prosperity story. Hello, my name is Siddharth Chatterjee, the United Nations Resident Coordinator in China, and welcome to Delivering as One, a UN and China conversation. In this podcast, we highlight the heads of UN agencies in China who shape our diversity, discover their motivations, and find out about their work here on the ground. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Chang-Hee Lee, Director of the International Labour Organization Country Office for China and Mongolia. Dr. Lee, a citizen of the Republic of Korea, joined the United Nations in China in 2021. Chang-Hee, welcome to Delivering as One.
Thank you so much. This is the first time I appear in the podcast. This is a new experience. I'm very excited about it. So what should I tell you?
Thank you. Well, most welcome. And I hope this becomes a podcast that we can share with many people across the world, and particularly in South Korea. So Chang-Hee, let's dive straight into it and tell us about your growing up years, your studies, and your early career.
Okay, actually I was born in war refugee family. My mother and father, their family all came from North Korea in 1950 when the Korean War broke out. When they came to South Korea, of course, they didn't have anybody whom they know in South Korea, and they didn't have even a penny. So they, in the first few months, they survived because of the goodwill and good neighbor who shared their meager food with them. So they survived by actually begging. So my father and my uncle had to drop out of the school. But then after that, this is a typical Korean development success story. My grandfather worked so hard, and then my father and uncle who became the street vendor. After my grandfather made some money, they went back to school, they went to the best university, and they rose in their organization, companies, and then government to the top. So when I was born in 1964, I was born into very poor family who can't even afford an egg for dinner. But when I was in middle school already, we were in the ever-expanding middle class, joining the middle class of South Korean society, which was growing up. So this is part of development story, but it is also very much gendered story, meaning my father and uncle went to university, where my aunts are as bright as my father and uncle, but none of them were allowed to go to university. So this is a sad story. But where my generation and my children's generation all have equal opportunity, so that is good. But unlike my father's generation, I was not very hardworking students. I was very ordinary students who didn't show any interest in study, anything. But then the first awakening of my life came in 1980 when I was 11th grade. There was an assassination of the President Park, leading to the so-called spring of democracy, with hope of the democracy's return, but which was ended by bloody military coup d'etat, which really opened up my eyes. Before, I didn't have any question about myself, my future, the society and country. Ever since then, I began to ask questions on everything about our future, society, our generations and work. I began to play hard, study hard. So from the bottom of the school, I shot up to the top of the school in terms of performance, and I went to Seoul National University, which is the best university in Korea. And then,
well, one of the best universities in the world. It features in the top 100.
Sure. And there, where I began to be involved in social movement and labor movement. It was growing. At the age of 25, I became a sort of the general manager of one of the big think tank of our country.
Wow.
Which gathered the best minds, best intellectuals about our time, working on labor issues and social policy issues. And actually from there we have now justice ministers and one of the prominent LGBT activists and philosophers. It was really gathering a bright mind of our time. So from there I went to my PhD to do research on labor issue. Then I went to Japan to the field research about the Japanese labor market, Japanese labor relation. When I returned to Korea, then my Japanese academic advisor contacted me, "Hey Chang-Hee, there's a job in the ILO." Actually, at that time, I didn't know about anything about the ILO because Korea joined the UN in 1991. So actually, there was no Korean employee in the UN system. So yeah, that's how I get into the ILO in 1996.
How interesting. And but I mean, the story of South Korea is quite remarkable because
Right.
when you look at when you look at many countries in the world and you look at the rise of South Korea,
Right.
and one begins to wonder, which is the economic system or a model that really works. But I did a study of comparing the economies of South Korea, India, Nigeria, and Brazil at one time, and this was at Princeton University, and I looked at many of the issues that gave South Korea the lift off, which the other three countries, they have all the human resources, they have all the natural resources, did not catch up. So I think, it also takes, what I always say, political will is very important to make countries move forward. So I think South Korea's story is remarkable. And I think in many ways you epitomize that from, from the rags to prosperity story.
Sure, yeah. Actually, our family story is exactly part of our success story, development story.
So tell us, how did you then eventually come to work with the United Nations in China?
Well, before going there, I just want to share one story. I think it was 1996, February, I got a phone call who was speaking in English, but my English was none. I couldn't understand what he or she was talking. Apparently it was from Geneva, our headquarters, because I sent my application for the job, advised by my academic advisor in Tokyo University. Then it turned out they invited me for job interview. Can you imagine that I couldn't understand even a word, but I had to go for the job interview? Eventually I decided to go to Geneva for job interview. Why? I have never been to Geneva or any Western society till then.
You had not traveled, besides Tokyo, besides Japan, you had not traveled out of Korea.
Yeah, because I'm purely made in Korea. I never studied in foreign countries. I never traveled in Western society. So it is free of charge. So they pay my travel ticket, they pay the hotel, so why not? There's nothing to lose. I went there. Of course, it's crazy. I can tell you later how funny that process was, but miraculously, they said, you passed. I couldn't believe.
By the end of the interview?
Yeah, by the
that means you must have done a really good job.
I don't know. I couldn't understand what I was talking, but they understood what I was talking.
Fantastic.
It's just kind of touch of good luck, or I would say destiny. Indeed, it is a destiny which was waiting, and I was prepared to take that chance. But I can tell you, for the first 2 or 3 years, it was hell for me. We have a team meeting, but I was not able to understand what my boss was telling me what to do and how to do. I had to ask my colleagues after the meeting. And one episode, my email address now is chlee@iro.org. Initially, it was leech@iro.org. Do you know what leech means?
No.
Leech. That is an insect which sucks your blood.
Oh, leech. Oh, in that.
Leech, yes.
Okay.
You see, but I never saw that kind of vocabulary in my reading because I only did social science.
Right.
But what surprised me was nobody will tell me.
Pointed
out that Chang, you have to change your email address. That sounds odd.
How interesting.
When I found out that was quite an awakening as well. Wow, this is how my colleagues deal with me? Oh my God. And number two, when people talk about my performance, people say, Chang, you are good, you are wonderful, you are great, you are excellent. But I couldn't make out of the sense. What do you really mean? Do you really mean I'm doing a good job or not? It took around 3 or 4 years to get the sense of what they are
talking about,
what they really mean. And then from there, I began to have a self-confidence. Yes, now I can survive. I can work in this organization. By the time I got to that stage, then I moved to Bangkok, to the field office, began my field experience. That is my second awakening after the awakening at the high school. Right. So my first visit to China was in 2001, when China was preparing for entering WTO. At that time, our Chinese partners were so eager to learn new things, do things in different ways. And then from 2001 to 2010, I traveled more than 20 provinces together with our partners, helped them to do things in differently. For example, collective bargaining. During those 10 years, I think I trained more than thousands trade union negotiator of the collective agreement. And every year we have a meeting, then I gave them sort of advice what to do. Next year they will come back and telling me, hey Chang-Hee, what you told me worked in our locality. Oh, but we had to adjust because the local situation is different. We had that iteration of this meeting every year. People going out with the new knowledge, trying and come back, and they adjust and then innovate, and we really spread this practice of collective bargaining across China. That was one of the most challenging and rewarding experience. Yeah, after those 10 years, and then I went back to Geneva. I was in Hanoi as a country office director. In 2001, I came back to China as a director for ILO office for China and Mongolia. So that's how I came to China. Right.
So again, it was your destiny that brought you to China.
I think so, I believe.
Yeah. Fantastic. So tell us, what does your organization do to support the people of China, the country's priorities, and the UN family at large?
Before I talk about what we do, I think I need to introduce ILO for the audience, because not all people would know about what ILO is about. There are three unique features of the ILO. One, ILO is the second oldest specialized UN agency after ITU, which was born as International Telegraph Union, but now International Telecommunication Union. We were created in 1919, before the creation of the United Nations. Actually, ILO became the first specialized agency after UN was established in 1945. So we are a very old agency. Second, ILO is a normative agency which sets international labor standard for our member states. Once member states ratify ILO convention, it will have binding effect on the country which ratified the convention. So the second feature. Third one is what you call tripartism. Unlike all other UN agencies, ILO has government, but also we have a representative of the employer and workers' organization in making all decisions together and implementing all those programs together. So those these are very distinctive nature features of the ILO. So in China, we work not only with the government, actually more precisely, Ministry of Human Resources and Social Security, but also we work with the trade union, that is ACFTU, or China Federation of Trade Union, and CEC, China Enterprise Confederation. So those are the unique nature. In terms of priority, our priorities are defined in our Decent Work Country Program, in short name DWCP, which is fully aligned with the UNCF. If you look at the DWCP, say there are four priorities: job, protection, social dialogue for better working conditions, and SSTC. Job, of course, is where people grow, where people earn for their living. So creating full, inclusive, and high quality employment is a priority. For that also we have a program for skill development, because the Chinese economy is moving up, industrial upgrading is taking place, but if workers cannot upgrade their skills, there will be a gap between the technological prowess, power of the China and the actual working conditions of the productivity of the rank and file workers. So how to improve the skill is one thing. So that's number one priority. Number two priority is promote and extend social and labor protection in and out of workplaces. One example is in terms of social security, how to extend pension, industrial injury insurance to the workers in new forms of employment, such as platform workers, delivery workers, or DD driver. That is what we do. And also how to improve the occupational safety health protection of workers, so people don't need to worry about their life and their health while they're working.
Right.
And campaign against sexual harassment and discrimination at the workplace, which we are working with the UN Women in partnership with the Chinese Trade Union as well as China Enterprise Confederation. So that's the second priority. Third priority, which is about social dialogue for better working conditions and also respect for ILO's fundamental principles and rights at work, which has gained universally recognized set of principles which all ILO member states must promote and apply. So we work with not just government, with social partner, to use process of social dialogue, including collective bargaining, to improve working conditions, not just wages, but also working time regulation. Those things are not just regulated by the law and policy, but also self-regulated through bipartite cooperation between worker, employer at the workplace and industry level. And another important area is the promotion of these fundamental principles and rights at work in global trade system, where China wants to be part of, and also in global supply chain. I can come back to this issue later. And fourth one is SSTC. Of course, you know much better than I do.
That's South cooperation.
Right.
Yeah. For the rest of the listeners, so they understand.
Indeed.
And that's a critical part. There are important knowledge and experiences that we can share from China with the rest of the developing world, particularly in countries which are still wanting to come out of their challenges of poverty and lack of employment and these opportunities.
Definitely. I mean, China has, if you look at China's labor market policy, in some areas, yes, there are challenges we have to address, as we will discuss later, but like job creation and skill training institutions, and it's just it's almost state of art now. So there are many things China can share with other countries, not just developing countries, by the way, even developed countries. I should say.
The number of women in the labor force,
sure.
The skill sets that they have, the diverse range of skill sets. No, it is quite fascinating, and I think that becomes fundamental. Yeah.
Digital delivery of the vocational training. Replicating the impact through digitalized platform. Right? So that kind of thing is a kind of model for the world, in my view.
Right. So let's get on to, could you give us some brief insight of your key beneficiaries of your organization in China?
Well, as I said, we have a very unique tripartite structure. So we work with government, but also with workers and employers. Of course, ultimate beneficiary include, workers not only in big enterprises, but multinational company, but also small and medium enterprise. But IRO in China is very small. Ourselves alone cannot reach out them. We walk through our partners. Of course. One example is, as I said in my previous remark, about, for example, collective bargaining. Because we train thousands of union negotiators for better collective agreement.
Training of trainers.
Training of trainers, right? So now they are in every provinces in China. Excellent. So they are working with the employer to negotiate better wages and working conditions, and also to ensure the compliance with the national laws and sometimes international labor standards. But by that, we really magnify the impact we can create, right? So that is how we reach out our ultimate beneficiary of this huge society, because whatever resources we have, our resources is just tiny compared to what Chinese partners themselves can deliver through their voluntary action for their own better future. So that's how we work. Of course, when it comes to specific groups such as LGBT, we have a special program working with the UN Women to protect their employment rights, because sometimes they face discrimination when they apply for job. The HIV/AIDS, for example, patient may be excluded from gaining the job. So that kind of thing, we do the awareness raising so that they can get the job for their own future.
So in alignment with the SDGs, making sure we leave no one behind. Yeah. Okay, so identify some of the remaining development challenges faced by China in the coming years, and how your organization as part of the UN in China will assist China to achievement of the SDGs.
Well, if I look at the way China has traveled through these challenges for the last 30 or 20 years, it's really amazing journey. As we know, the elimination of the absolute poverty, creating the opportunity for the education and training for majority of this young generation. Amazing achievement in many areas. But of course, today we are living in a dangerous and uncertain world. We face a lot of challenges, climate crisis, demographic changes, and
health crisis with COVID.
Pandemic, and also including geopolitical conflict which affect our future. Right? So China faces a lot of challenges. If I just look at my area of work, meaning ILO's area of work, number one is how to keep up workers' skills, how to ensure workers' future in tandem with the technological transformation. Mm-hmm. China is on the forefront of scientific and technological transformation and innovation. China produces thousands of excellent scientists and engineers every year, leading technological innovation. So it's a great thing. But what about majority workers? Can they go along with technological innovation? The working age population is beginning to shrink. So supply of the labor force, the real economy, manufacturing is dwindling. Why? There are so many workers in so-called platform economy. Some people say there are 200 million workers in platform economy, directly and indirectly. And according to Alibaba projection, by 2035, there may be 400 million workers working linked area linked to platform economy. But if you look at, say, Didi Driver or quick delivery service, which really constitute majority of today's platform worker, the nature of work is problematic, isolated, very much fragmented, and there's no opportunity to go up in the promotion ladder. There is no opportunity to learn new skills. Is it going to be dead-end job which would not allow people to grow and gain higher skill, therefore higher income? And also usually that kind of job comes without any protection, no pension, no social insurance, say health insurance. That's why actually we are working with the government to extend social security protection for platform workers. But really this is a key point for the future growth. If they cannot move to higher skills, they cannot move better protected job, there is a serious question for the quality development prospect of China. That's number one challenge I can see. Number two would be how to address income disparity for common prosperity. If you look back, until 2010, the income inequality has grown, worsening situation is so. But from 2010 until now, this income disparity situation has become better or stabilized instead of getting further worse situation. So far so good, but still income disparity remains very high compared to other countries of similar phase of the development. So what to do about it? Between, say, rural and urban areas, between different economic sectors, and many other areas. But good thing is that China now places high importance on achieving common prosperity. UNRCO is now working with the Zhejiang University for common prosperity project because Zhejiang province has been designated as a pilot province for common prosperity project. So that once it succeeds, the government wants to replicate Zhejiang experience in other provinces. So that's why we are doing it. Third challenge would be how to demonstrate China's commitment to UNRCO's fundamental principles and rights at work. Not just only for better protection of workers and employers' rights, but also for integrated and stable global trade and global supply chain. As I said, the fundamental principles and rights at work of the UNRCO is seen as a universal condition for all UNRCO member states to respect who joins and participate in the global trade system. Now, some countries try to use this as a tool to decouple the global supply chain, saying if you don't respect this and that, we cannot trade with you, or we don't want to be part of this global supply chain. So there is a danger of turning fundamental principles and rights at work as a destabilizer or divide for decoupling. So in the situation, China should demonstrate China's commitment to fundamental principles and rights at work so that it can become a unifier and stabilizer of the global supply chain with the full respect of universal principles. And in that sense, it is very encouraging to see that China ratified the UNRCO Convention C-29 and 105 on forced labor, because this is a clear evidence of China's commitment. So this is something we continue to work with, not just with the government, but also big companies in the global supply chain.
Excellent, very helpful. So tell us about a day in your life, in your current role.
That's not easy because these days we are not living a very normal life under COVID-19 and COVID-19 control. So it was before COVID-19, my day will be very busy with many conferences and seminars and missions to Jiangsu and Xinjiang and everywhere, but we don't have it, so I cannot describe my typical day. Under this new normal of the COVID-19, I have some adjusted routine. I'm really early bird, quite actually extreme early bird. I get up 3:30 in the morning. So I come to the office around 8:30. So I have around 5 hours before I come to the office. So what I do is first I start with yoga, jogging, and shower. If I finish it, it's still not yet 5 a.m. Around 5 a.m. I begin to look at some key documents which I need to think about for the work of the day, and then I have a breakfast and come back. I read the newspaper and check what are the new developments which require my attention, and then I come to the office. So Even before I arrive in my office, perhaps 1/3 of my daily work is already completed in the morning. So now I arrive in the office. The first thing is hello to everybody and have some internal management stuff I deal with, whether it is HRs or some contract, etc. And then second thing I spend my time is prepare my opening speeches and presentation, and these days pre-recording of those things because I don't go there.
Yeah.
So standing in front of video camera and then record and receive some guests. Not many these days, not many people come. When I was in China 10 years ago, every day I have so many visitors, but not many people. So I have more time to read Chinese books because my Chinese now crossing the intermediate level, going high level.
Excellent.
So that is how I spend my time. And meet some important people in my area, whether they are professors or partners in the government. So that's how I use my time. And you skip 2 meals, right? I skip only 1 meal, that is the dinner. So I have more time in the evening because I don't need to cook and eat dinner. So yeah, that is time for me to watch Chinese drama and movie for my Chinese study. And listening to music around 8:30, then 9:30, I'm already done. Usually I go to the bed 9:30.
Excellent.
And I sleep 6 hours until 3:30. So that's quite enough.
Yeah.
That's my
Early to
day.
bed, early to rise.
Yes.
Makes Mr. Chang-Hee healthy, wealthy, and wise.
They
Wonderful.
surprise our colleagues. Yeah.
So, what does delivering as one mean to you, Chang-Hee?
Well, I have to confess, I was skeptical about the delivering as one 10 years ago when we begin to talk about it because I was really worried about higher transaction cost than what we can actually deliver together because I know the bureaucracy so well, so I was a skeptic. But then when I was the director of the IRO office in Vietnam, Vietnam was one of the 8 pilot countries for delivery as one, so that was my first-hand experience of delivery as one. But then COVID-19 came in 2020. That really changed my view and my experience delivery as one. At that time, I worked with the WHO to help the government and our social partner, meaning workers and employee representatives, to develop new occupational safety health guidelines, specifically targeting the COVID-19 at the workplaces. Wow, it was a great success. Working with not just Ministry of Labor, but also Ministry of Health, producing this guideline, we amplify the impact. That's one evidence of the great work we can do as we deliver as one. Second was duty of care under COVID-19. If I had to do just alone by the ILO, it won't be that easy. But then as we teamed up together, we were able to do our duty of care much more effectively, really protecting our staff in a much more coordinated manner with the larger resources. So that really changed my view about delivery as one. Yes, this is the way for our future. And in China, I truly enjoy under the UN SDC app and under your leadership. I mean, it is great fun to work together.
Thank you. And what, in your opinion, makes an ideal RC? You've been to many countries. Vietnam had a great RC.
Right.
So what do you see as an ideal RC?
First, I would say respect the rules, procedure, but don't hide behind the rules. And rules are used for consensus building in transparent, fair, and integral manner. That's number one condition. Number two, political skills of dealing with very sensitive issues and challenges in principle, but flexible and nuanced manner. That's number two in my view. Number three, faith, conviction into what we are doing in the UN value, injecting enthusiasm and guarded optimism among not just the UN people, but also our partners, government and other civil society organizations. And energy and the dynamism, devotion and speedy action. Does it sound very familiar to you? I'm talking about you.
Really?
Yes.
Thank you. That's
I
very kind of
you
you.
know, I'm not a person who give a lip service. I truly enjoy working with you because of all those elements I described. You have it. Actually, I extracted from observing how you do your job as an RC.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. Thank you, Chang-Hee. It's really for us, it's an honor to have you with your experience here as the head leading ILO, given which you quite rightly pointed out, the global geopolitics complicates many issues. But I think your wisdom and dexterity in managing these complexities are very, very helpful to us as a UN family. So much appreciated. So thank you, Chang-Hee, for sharing your story, sharing your time with us today. In fact, to me, this podcast will also be an inspiration to countless other people, simply young people who don't see their lives that they have opportunities, but it could be turned around. So if you would like to learn more, visit china.un.org or follow the UN in China on our Twitter. Join us next time for another installment of Delivering as One, a UN in China conversation. Thank you very much, Chang-Hee.
I
정말 감사합니다.
truly enjoyed my conversation.
Thank you.